joining me for part 3 of my used car vlog. In part 1 we looked at the whether to buy a new car or a used car. In part 2 we had a look at what type of financing arrangement was probably best for the purchase of a car. And in this video, part 3, we should look at some of the rules and fundamental issues that we'd be examining when we have found that car that should be right for us. So rule number 1, don't get too enthusiastic. If you found the car, you believe it's your dream car, just take your time. Don't let the seller see how excited you are about it, and have a really good look at the car. So you want to go with a very critical eye, is what I call rule number 2. So have a very critical eye when you're examining the car, and look for every scratch, every dent, any little indentation you can find, because that will give you an overall picture of the condition the car has been maintained in. And it's unlikely that if you find a car all bent up, broken, bruised and stuff, that the guy was taking really good care of the engine but just wasn't paying attention to the bodywork. Possible, but unlikely. Alright, so when you go, I should mention this as well, if you're buying from a private seller, try to go to his house to make the purchase. You don't want to meet him in a parking lot, some supermarket somewhere. You need a fixed address, somewhere that you can trace should an issue arise later. Okay? So we spoke about the critical eye and making, having a really thorough look at the car. Just walk around it a few times. You can't do this in a rush environment. Try not to view a car at night. Try not to view it after heavy rain or if the car is wet, because those can mask a lot of scratches and imperfections in the paint job. That might be telltale signs that it was in a previous accident. Also look at the neighborhood that you're viewing the car. If the car is in a rural area especially, the roads are bad, I'd pay a really close attention to the suspension. The suspension could probably be needing attention if the conditions of the road in the surrounding area the car is located is bad. So take it for a test drive, keep the windows down, radios off, and listen for any squeaking, shaking, or anything that just doesn't feel right. Excessive play in the steering wheel, the dashboard is shaking like a nervous puppy. You know, those are telltale signs that maybe car isn't as tight as you'd like it to be. Alright, look at the seats as well. If the car claims to have 50,000 miles, but half of the rubbers are missing from the brake pad, or the brake pedal, sorry, the driver's seat's all worn out, that might be a sign that somebody has messed with the mileage on that car. Alright, so yeah, there's other things you can look at. As just recently visited a used car dealership close to where I'm located. I think it's in Bluebell Hill. It's a new facility that was opened up by one of the major used car dealers. And as I looked at the cars on display, I noticed that they had sprayed the brake disc, the calipers of the cars. And it looked nice. And you know, when you go up to a new car and you look through the wheels and you see those shiny calipers and disc and stuff, you get an impression that this car is new. And that was how these cars were looking. But you know, they were not new cars. So you were almost being manipulated into believing that these brakes and these discs were in better condition than they actually were. And I didn't like that, because that's one more marker that you could use to judge the condition of the car that was being covered up by some cheap spray. So look out for things like that. It looks nice, as I said, but it's taking more information away from you than it's giving. So you have to check. Another thing to do, buying a car, ask all the documents on the vehicle. Find a quiet space to sit, a chair somewhere, sit in your car, whatever, and just go through the paperwork on the car. Look for all the service receipts, the MOTs. Look at the mileage on the MOTs, the space between the mileage. You know, if 1 year to another it jumped up a large amount or didn't move any at all, that should be a telltale sign. Maybe this car was parked for a long period. Why was it parked for that long period? Was it in an accident? Did it need, was the engine probably being changed or needed repair? Stuff like that. There should be some corresponding reason. Maybe the owner was away, vacation, something, but there should be a reason why. If you see inconsistencies or gaps or stuff like that in the mileage, the mileage usage over the period, and the MOT tends to give you that information. So have a good look at service history again. It should be in line with the mileage of the car. If the car is, let's say, 79,000 miles and you realize that the clutch should be changed every 80,000, it's not that you wouldn't buy that car, but that's something you can use to bargain for a lower price, because you're going to need to be changing clutch within a few weeks of purchasing that car. So look at the service intervals for the different parts and make sure that any work that should have been done based on the mileage has been done, and if something major is coming up, that you factor that into the price you're going to pay for that vehicle. That's pretty much most of what I would recommend you look for. Pay careful attention. Yeah, I should mention this is the VIN. The VIN numbers on the paperwork should match, obviously, the VIN number on the vehicle. There's a lot of cloned, well, I wouldn't say a lot, it's becoming more popular. There are people cloning vehicles now, and if that's discovered, that's your money gone right there. If it's a stolen vehicle, you get no points for buying a stolen vehicle. The police will just take that off you, and you'll be lucky not to get actually in some countries you can be charged for buying or possession of stolen property. So make sure the VIN numbers match the paperwork, and you can find the VIN numbers of most vehicles on the windshield. Some cars have it in the doors, in the trunk, in the engine bay. Some vehicle put the chassis number on the engine block or on the chassis. Well, that's where you put the chassis number, isn't it? And so look for these things. And another thing you can do, draft a short sales agreement. You know, make it in duplicates. Have the seller write one and you write one. That way you have the seller's handwriting as well, and have him sign it. That way you have his signature. It's just about traceability. So should things go south, you have the guy's signature. And don't pay cash. A bank transfer. So again, you have some level of traceability should things go south. All right, those are my tips for buying a used car for those persons out there. A lot of experts out there who are buying cars, and for them, this information is old news. But there might be a few people who might find this useful. If you do, feel free to click like, subscribe. Check out the other videos on my channel. You can just click on my name and you'll see the other videos, part 1, part 2 for this. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.